Hey, man, you already know what it is, man. It's all about the you. Today, we
All
got a special
day.
guest on the show. But look, on a serious note, before we get into all that, man, we had a loss in the Canes family. Want to salute and throw prayers up for Coach Cooper and his whole family, man.
Yes, sir. Yes,
Tough
sir.
loss, man. You sharing that video with us was heartbreaking. Wish you the best,
Yes.
man. Wish you heal and anything, you know what I'm saying? Anything we could do, man, we're here for you, Coop. You got
Definitely.
anything,
Reach
Joe?
out, Coop. No doubt. Yeah, I reached out to him privately, man. Anything, Coop, man. We love that
Yeah,
dude.
man.
So, yes.
Yeah, we're here,
Prayers
man.
up
Your
to you and your
energy's awesome,
family,
man.
brother. Yeah.
Yeah, man, your energy's awesome, man. You're one of the reasons why we do this, man. So salute to you, Coop,
Facts.
man. We're here for you. So on the other
Yes.
side, we'll be talking to Izubee Charles from On3 and Canesport.
Hold
As
on.
always, man, you know we poured up. Let's do this.
Welcome to the You Heard Podcast.
I'm hurt, dog.
Ben and Joe break down all things Miami Hurricanes football.
Don't ask me if I'm all right. Hell no.
From hot topics to pre- and post-game analysis.
One team said dominate, and we not doing it.
You heard.
I put my heart in this, dog.
Ladies and gentlemen, Izubee Charles. What's going on,
Hey,
man? How you doing, fam?
hey.
What's going on, fellas? Thank you for having me.
Yeah, man.
Yes,
Look,
man.
I told you, I reached out to you. I was like, look, man, we did like the work you're doing, putting out that content. I talked to you off record. You know what I'm saying? That's the why that is. You know what I'm saying? We keep that between us. But yeah, man, like I really like the work you do. I wanted to ask you right off top, how is it that you build the relationship with these high school kids when they're, you know what I'm saying, being recruited by so many people and making them feel comfortable enough to talk to you for 100 yards?
So, my first thing, what I do when I interview anybody, because, the first kid that kind of put me on game with this was Hakeem Williams. I went to FSU. Before I interviewed him, I was just talking to him, like, I try to reach out to you because a lot of these kids is really hard to reach out. They got, 1,000 different guys like me trying to, hey, let me get this, let me learn this about you. And then one thing he told me, he was like, yeah, one of these recruiting guys called me and, I was in the hospital bed and he's just asking me questions about this and that, and just not even asking how I am, what's going on with me, what's going on with my family. So anytime I interview anybody, the first thing I'm asking, how you doing? How's your day today? What's good with you? Just trying to break that ice, break that barrier because obviously everybody, we both know, I'm trying to get a little information about this and that to, write a good story about you. But at the end of the day, I feel like, it's more than a story. There's actually a person behind it. And I just feel, just being genuine with the kids, I'm younger too. So I feel like I can kind of connect a little bit more with that aspect. So just being genuine and asking, how you doing and actually caring about them rather than just thinking, oh, this kid's just another story that I'm writing.
Joe?
Absolutely. That's very dope, man. Do you feel like as a younger reporter, man, a younger guy in this game, do you feel like any hate, any pushback or anything like that in the game?
I wouldn't say hate or anything like that, but it's like sometimes I'm the youngest guy in the room by 20, 30 years. So I feel like, these guys have all worked with each other for the past 10, 15, 20 years in the Miami area. So I'll be like, the odd guy standing over there while these guys are all communicating. But, it's nothing new to me. I've always been not the outsider, but like the outlier of whatever I'm doing. So I just keep it pushing and just at the end of the day, I know my end goal. They're going to be there regardless. So I just keep it like that.
That's dope.
All right, man. So you just mentioned end goal. What is your end goal, man, if you don't mind me asking?
So it's actually interesting. So I grew up watching like ESPN, Stephen A. So I always wanted to be, on camera talking. So growing up, I was like, man, I want to be a sports center anchor, this and that. And then I ended up getting into writing and then it just started taking a course of its own. So honestly, I'm just going with the flow right now. As long as I'm happy, I'm working, what I'm doing with work, as long as I'm happy, that's all that matters. So if it stays in recruiting or covering the Hurricanes, so be it. If it ventures me off somewhere else, then that's God's plan. He's taking me that way. But as of now, I'm locked in, covering the Miami, and I'm loving every second of it.
That's a good way to look at it, man. How old are you, Max?
23.
Man, that's a great outlook for somebody's your age, man. That's a great way to look at things. You know what I mean? So, are we hopping in? I want to first of all, I want to ask what I did want to ask. You played football, right? Where did you play at?
I played at Riverdale High School in Fort Myers.
Yeah, what position you played?
I played a wide out and a safety. I know Furman likes to gas it up, saying I ran a 4.5 sometimes. I'm like, Gary, just don't do all that to me. I remember one time he told Mario I ran a 4.4. I said, hey, I do not run a 4.4, my brother.
They're just gonna try to get you on campus, man.
Exactly.
Need somebody stretch the field, man.
I would if I could stretch the field right now, I wouldn't be writing these articles. I'd be. I played football growing up all my life. I played soccer, lacrosse. I just a little bit of everything. I just love sports. I love staying active. So, football was my main thing. I love football.
No doubt. That's dope.
Now, so you started with Canesport this past year, right? And I think like 5-6 months ago.
Yeah, August 1st is my official start date.
Yeah. So 4 months ago. So you came into a time when it's totally different, right? So seeing how Mario recruits and hearing it from the old timers like Gary and Matt Shodell, like how have you connected with these kids? And I'm assuming the work is so much harder, right? Like because he recruits at such a bigger span. Like what's the biggest thing that these recruits are? Because like I ask Joe all the time, I was like, I don't understand how he's doing this after a 5-7 season, right? Like I don't my brain doesn't comprehend it. Right, like because it don't. So, what does he tell these young men? Because I don't like to call them kids. What does he tell these young men to get them to believe in him so much, and DVD and like the rest of that staff?
So when I first got here, one of the first stops I made was out to interview Ray with the 100-yard walk, and I had a probably 15-20 minute sit down with Uncle Luke Luther Campbell, and I just asked him, obviously you've been here since the beginning of all this, what's different about Mario and what he's doing, and he just told me he's just there. His presence is there. He's always in communicating with these kids. He's hands on with these kids. He's at the school with them. That's the biggest thing. Like he's just physically there. Because Luke was saying nothing against Manny Diaz. I wasn't here for that staff or how they moved, but he was saying they weren't as present in the schools, not just the American Heritage, the St. Thomas's, but the Miami Edison, and he's actually listening. The biggest takeaway I had from talking to him, he was like, I told Manny Diaz and that staff I have the next Amari Cooper and Ray Joseph, and they didn't recruit him. And I'm saying, he said, if I tell you I have what I think is a future star, I've produced a lot of or helped a lot of kids, why aren't you listening? And he said, Mario, listen. And that's when he came in, and that Clemson flip just kind of, started happening. So from a coach's aspect, it's him being there. And even the coach at Dillard High School, Coach Tate, he's saying, Kevin Steele's out there, hands-on with the kid, writing up plays, working on defense with them. Nice. The whole coaching staff is just really, really hands-on. And with Mario, all the kids are saying he's so personable. He's like an uncle to them. I remember I spoke with Ruben Bain a week ago before he committed. He said the biggest thing with Mario, he doesn't have to jump through hoops to talk to him. You don't have to call this guy to get in contact with this guy. He has his number. He can call him up straight up. He'll pick up. You even saw, at his commitment, he called Mario right away, had him on FaceTime. So it's like, being accessible to the kids, being there, being present. I feel like that's the biggest thing with him. And obviously his energy, his demeanor is contagious. When Mario talks, everybody listens and he's well respected. You just feel that being around his presence, like, all right, this guy has a plan. This guy knows what he's doing. I feel like the kids, really embrace that and believe in him.
That's dope. That's incredible, man. That's incredible. Because I had a son that went to Miami in 2020 with the old staff, and it was a difference. it was a big difference. So, yeah, man, I definitely understand what you're saying. What is the temperature about, or the temperature on the current program from the player perspective, from the in the community? You talk to the younger, you talk to the high school athletes. What do they think about the program currently?
Like we talked about a little bit before the show, it's hard to recruit off a 5-7 season, but they just understand, his history, what he did at Oregon, the players that he sent to the league, what Oregon's doing now. Everybody's bought in. All the guys I've spoken to, I asked them, 5-7 season, is that discouraging for you? Does that shy you away from a program? Every guy, no, that just makes me hungry to come in and be a part of that change. We know these aren't Cristobal's guys. That's one of the most repeated things I hear. These aren't his guys. We're just waiting for his guys to come in. And once he gets his guys in, that's when you see, the real Coach Cristobal and what he can do, and Coach Mirabal. And and all these guys. So they're optimistic, just as optimistic as Mario. I know after every game, we talk to the recruits after the FSU game. We're talking to these guys, and some of these guys, I know the Duke game, my fault. I spoke with Malik Bryant, guys who got beat up by Duke. Him saying, what, this should encourage guys to want to come in here and work. So all these 2023, 2024 guys lock in and let's be a part of the change. And I just love that about all the commitments that Miami has this year. They're just really eager to come in, be that change that the program needs.
That's incredible, man.
Yeah, man. I think what Mario, and I could being an outsider, right? Like just being a fan, like Mario was looking for a size and a body type. You see with the linebackers and the linemen and things like that. But he was also looking for a mentality, right? Like we talked about on the show before, where there was a clear disconnect, let's say, between the coaching staff and the players. And the coaching staff might have come in and just been hard coaching, right? Tough love. Like you see Coach Mosley on Last Chance You be doing. I'm saying if you haven't been watching this, it's a great show.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? So like give them the tough love and no kids responded. So he wants kids to come in and respond to that kind of in those challenges and those adversity. So what similarities? I know you said what they said, what similarities just work-wise and professionalism that these young men have showed how do you tap into that as a coaching staff and recruiting? How do you see those intangibles? Right? Because we know Miami's got the second ranked class, according to stars and the ACC and all that, just never lives up to it. But the intangibles have been the thing that's been missing. So how do the staff and these players see that within each other?
I feel these kids, they bring in their own type of swagger, type of demeanor that's different. Honestly, with a guy like Ray, he's the happy kid. Obviously, he's a dog on the field, but when you talk to him, he's a happy kid. He's in Miami. I want to bring the program back up. He's a good guy. And then you talk to a guy like Robbie Washington. He's got that swagger. He's got that when he's on the field, he'll talk his talk, things like that. But at the end of the day, all these guys are coming in, like you said, looking for a typical size and things like that. But all these guys have that mindset of, I'm going to come and be here. I'm going to be a dog. I'm coming to take the next guy's spot. So I feel like the staff has done a great job of picking and plucking out guys that have the mindset as well as the skill set with that aspect.
Mm-hmm.
Nice. As a younger cat, man, the generational difference, right? In coaching. So coaching the athlete now, as opposed to coaching, people always want to talk about the 80s, 90s, 2000 Canes. Coaching the athlete now, Mario's style is no nonsense, like a Saban, no nonsense. We're going to work. We're not going to sugarcoat. We're not going to coddle you. How do you think that works with the athlete now? You know what I mean?
So with that, I feel like you got to find a guy that can take that tough love. Like a perfect example is that Cam Kitchens, a guy that they lean on to be a leader. You need like he said, we need to surround Cam Kitchens with a whole bunch of Cam Kitchens, and I feel like they're finding those type of guys that want to come in, that's gonna put in that extra work, that's gonna grind when people aren't looking, that's gonna put those 7 a.m.s in when people are sleeping until 12. And I feel like they've done a great job of identifying those local guys, those guys across the country that have that mindset that are, hey, I'm all about business. Football is football. This is what I came here to do. I'm going to be on my P's and Q's and not, mess around. But I feel like they've done a great, great job of identifying guys that they feel like are coachable as well, too, because all these guys are coming in. They're saying, hey, I want to learn under my coach. Hey, this position coach this position coach that. So I feel like I said, the body type's there, the size is there, but the mind is there too with all of these kids I've spoken to. I feel like they've done a great job of identifying talent on the field and talent off the field as well.
Yeah, man. Like Izubee, I know this sounds like might be like a repetitive question that you get a lot, but I don't understand because I've been a Kings fan since 1989, right? I know you were born in 99, makes me feel old. This shit that I'm saying that just want to put that out there. You know what I'm saying? I'm a year and a half away from 40, but in my lifetime, especially with social media, I've never seen anything like this, right? From my team that I love, you know what I'm saying, like this. So I don't the connection that he makes. What differentiates Mario from almost anybody else besides like a Brian Hartline. You know what I'm saying? Like give him his props too. Like that work ethic. Where does he get that energy from? Because we hear all the stories. He's texting guys at 4:30 in the morning and texting them at 11:30 at night and staying on them. Like where does that drive come from? Like to always be there for these guys. Because you said something that really stuck with me. Like he's there for them, right? Like he just shows up. People don't understand how powerful that is for, you know what I'm saying, young men that might not have the greatest of upbringings and the family life, and just somebody being there. So where does he find that those buttons to push in a way?
I feel like with him being born and bred in Miami, a Columbus high school guy, you know, he's seen Miami at its best. He's been a part of the program, you know, pretty much his whole life. So I feel like that sense of pride and saying, hey, this is my hometown team. I grew up loving this team. I played for this team. I graduated from this university. That sense of pride of, you know, I want to bring this back to where it used to be, because obviously he's seen, you know, the program the past couple of years is not living up to its standards. I think we've all seen that. So I feel like that sense of pride of him just really coming in saying, hey, I want to be the next guy that brings that program back up. And then you mentioned something as well, you know, him being there. I talked to Frankie Tennant, the guy from LaSalle, and when Coach Mirabal visited at his high school, he was telling me, like, when he was walking through the hallway, some of the kids are like, oh my gosh, you know, Coach from Miami's here. So like just being present, like you mentioned, some of these kids will never see a Power 5 coach in their high school. So just like having that effect and seeing these kids like, oh, if Frankie's doing that, man, maybe I'll be the next guy that has the University of Miami staff in the hallways and things like that. So just being present now, you never know how that affects the next wave, the 2024 guys, the 2025 guys, the 2026 guys. And I feel like they've done a great job of kind of planting those seeds to root up, you know, the 2025 guys. We're locking in with Miami because
deal with more the high school recruiting. In that aspect, how many more high school, I guess, recruits or targets are we looking at bringing in, you think?
I'm thinking 3 to 5, because we still have the February signing window too, honestly.
Right.
And there's a good amount of guys that you know, Miami are targeting, like Nicole Harbers from Maryland. He's not signed until February. There's a couple guys I can't think of, you know, off the top of my head that are waiting for that, you know, the next signing period. But right now, I feel like in this next coming weeks, a lot of big names are going to start coming off that board and locking in with Miami. And we've seen it this week, you know, Chris Johnson, Ruben Bain, Sampson, you know, the guy Cohen from Alabama, and just in a 1 week time. So I feel like they're about to pull out the stops these last couple of days to make a real impact on that recruiting stage.
Real quick. You just said something about Harbor, and that's somebody I forgot about. Mm-hmm. Is there any update? Like, he's been kind of quiet. Is there any updates on him?
So with him, Harbor's, like I said, he's holding his recruitment back to February, and his main reason for that was because he's an elite track guy too. So football season happened. He said right when football season's over, it rolls in the track. So he's really locked in, you know, on that aspect. But one of our guys from On3, Chad Simmons, talked to him, and he has some really good things to say about Miami. He plans on coming to visit Miami before that February signing day. So hopefully when he gets down here, you know, Mario can work his magic with the, I don't know if it's the Loafers, I don't know if it's
on them Loafers, baby, the Air Loafers.
Air
Loafers.
Hey, fam, y'all,
the Mario ones.
Yeah,
so hopefully it gets him down here and shows him, you know, what Miami's all about, because he's been you know, he's been selling these kids a big vision, and these kids are buying in. So I'm hoping Harbor is that next guy that Miami can shock the world with and swing to the U.
Yeah.
Oh, totally forgot. I didn't even think, like, these names that we're throwing out now, that the level of talent that we talk about is something that I didn't grow accustomed to. It was always like we used to fight off Appalachian State for kids. I'm saying no shots fired. You know what I'm saying? Like, let's just I just want to make sure, like, this is so different. Like a kid like Nicholas Harbor from Maryland, you go get Sampson from Massachusetts. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? You're talking to kids from California. Like, recruiting at this level is wild. So how do you keep track of it all, Izubee? Like, because you following that on the high school side. We act like, you know what I'm saying, like on Twitter, we act like we know anything. You really in this, like, you really embedded at the kids. Like, you really in it. Like, we look at you and then we act like we said it. You know what I'm saying? Like, not we, but you already know what it is. Like, oh, but you hearing this? Like, yeah, Izubee said it. We heard. what Izubee
Mhm.
said. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like, how do you
no,
keep track of all these kids, man, and like all these young men, and like and try to figure out who Mario's going after and what that relationship is, and build a relationship when they're back with them after that?
it's a lot of calls, a lot of waiting on people to get back to you, a lot of hours standing outside, the facilities waiting to see, who's there and who's that. And it's interesting, honestly. Like you said, like it's a lot going on, a lot of moving pieces. One day some guy's dropping a top 5 here, and next day he's doing this, doing that. So it's just staying on top of that, going out to schools, building that connection with coaches. Hey coach, how's this guy feeling about this and that? Just building connections and using social media as well too, because all these kids, their lives are not saying revolve around social media, but they post this and that. I'm here, tap in with Miami. So if a kid's showing a lot of love to a school, if a kid's on an unofficial visit, you put a little check mark next to his name, say, hey, maybe I'll double back to this kid, give him a call. Hey, how you feeling about Miami? Okay, and then you just go from there. So a lot of, hey, just checking in on you, man. How's everything going? What's the recruiting process looking like? Who's showing you love? This and that. If they mention the Hurricanes, that's a guy we gotta really key in on and see where his head's at with that. But it's really fun, man. It's my first time covering recruiting, and I'm loving it so far.
Nah.
That's incredible, man. Seeing a lot of chatter about Damari Brown, Cristobal to Bama and Saban. Are we on par? How do you feel about that? Is that something that's accurate, or nothing's done until the Loafers say so, or what? What's going on?
I feel like Miami's going to go out swinging with that one, honestly, because when Coach Saban flies down and comes with you to school, what he did with Damari, that's a big one. But I feel like with Damari's dad being a Hurricane great, Selwyn Brown, his brother now in the mix to come to Miami too. But Miami's pulling out the stops down the stretch to really keep him home, and that's been one of their biggest things. I feel like throughout this whole process, Damari Brown has been one of their biggest priorities, and they have not let up on him at all. So I feel like that persistence will potentially play off, and I feel like if they do land Damari, I feel like his brother comes in too, because you have to think Tyreek's gone, DJ's gone on the other side, so that cornerback room is wide open, screaming for, hey, somebody come take this spot. And I feel like that's something that a lot of these kids were talking about. I feel like I can come to Miami, get instant playing time. So you got 2 open corner spots, and that secondary, besides the safety positions, it's up for grabs. Obviously, Cam and James are locking it back down there. So as a recruit, I'd be drooling at the mouth, saying, hey, I'm coming to Miami and starting off rip. So I think that's one aspect that really Miami has to offer that other schools can't offer, Damari and his brother right away, that instant come in here, be that guy, from day one. So hopefully I feel like they're doing that work behind the scenes, because they do a lot of work behind the scenes that people don't see. So I feel like they're doing a great job of that, and I feel like that's going to pay off in the long run with them.
No doubt. One more real quick. Before I forget, man, I'm old, and I forget real quick.
Older.
Right, older. Facts. Edwin Jackson. How anything?
Edwin Joseph Shamadan.
Edwin, did I say Jackson? Edwin Joseph. Yeah.
So with him, it's a little tough, because honestly, he was obviously a late bloomer. But I put this on our message board the other day. The first time I went out to Shamadan to watch them play, I think it was can't remember. I think it was Dillard, maybe really early in the year. The first person I noticed playing both sides of the ball was like, who is number 2? And it was Edwin, because I'm hearing about, Jeremiah Smith is an amazing athlete. Jojo Trader's amazing. Mm-hmm. All these guys are great. But the guy that really popped on the field was Joseph for me. And I feel like, I'm not saying Miami came in a little too late, but when I first started talking to him, he's saying, I'm getting a lot of love from Louisville, Penn State, schools like that. And those schools have been the same ones that have been, persistent on him. And I feel like, coming from behind this late in a process with a kid like that, you offer him, midway through that senior season. I'm not saying, he felt some type of way or he has, any animosity towards Miami, but I feel like that just puts you behind the ball, right away, and you have a lot of ground to make up. And with him not being, at the top of their board, I feel like that's hard for them to keep, applying that, hey, consistent thing. So if Miami ends up keeping him home, that'll be great. But right now he's on an official visit to Louisville. Or he's in Louisville right now, so that'd be real tough when they just got the new coaching staff from Purdue. So they're trying to keep up with guys. I know they have Stanquan Clark from Louisville, from Central. Qatar Creeks from Central. So Louisville has that pipeline to South Florida, and they're really tapping in. So that'll be interesting one to see down the road. He did tell me, I spoke with him at the NAP more. He did tell me he's gonna try to head to Miami before that signing day, but nothing for sure because it's real hectic these last 3 days, and he's planning on signing on Wednesday. But we'll see how that develops, in the next coming days.
Yeah.
Do you think kids that, or keep saying kids because they're like 18, but they are young?
Yeah.
You think these young men really decide to like either sign early or sign late? Like what? Like a Nicholas Harbor, right? Like what makes him make the decision besides the track thing to wait for February? Because it feels like the February is like such a forgotten signing day, right? Like everything's early because you get to come in January, ball out. You could possibly start as a freshman and all that stuff. Like besides the Nicholas Harbor one, that's he has the track season. What differentiates from them what makes the decision for the young men to sign early or do the original national signing day?
Well, I feel like there's different factors that come into play with that. Like we mentioned with Nicholas Harbor, he's a track star, so he kind of has to stay in high school. And I know of it, some guys like Hakeem is a basketball guy. He won a state championship last year, but he's saying, I'm going off to college. But sometimes I think it comes down to, guys having those credits that, I'm not able to, graduate a semester early, things like that. Because I know a couple of guys from Miami kind of have to deal with that. I believe Robert Stafford was trying to work out some way to get all his credits in before that deadline. So I feel like it comes down to that. And just, little things. Do I want to personally, leave early, leave all my friends behind in high school, forgo things like that. But I feel a couple of different things factor into that. But it's always good to get on campus as well, because I believe close to 70% of Miami's, 2023 class is going to be here in January. So that's always great for the coaches to be on campus, not only for that development aspect, but that's a weight off your shoulders. You don't have to fight for this kid the next 2 months with other schools coming in, hey, this and that. So you got the kids locked in. But a lot of different factors into that early enrollment thing.
Gotcha.
Dope.
Yeah,
I want to move to 2024 a little bit, man. At the quarterback position for 2024, coming out of high school, man. What targets are we looking at for 2024?
So Miami has 2 guys really big on their list right now. They have Michael Van Buren from St. Francis Academy in Maryland.
Wow.
Really good guy, 6 foot, around 190, real mobile guy. And then they have Josh Horton's teammate at Langston. His name's Prentice Air Nolan. He was down here for a visit.
Yeah, I saw him. I watched him play the other night, I think.
Yeah, he's a very, very good prospect. And those 2 guys I've spoken with, they're saying, Miami's chasing them hard. With Van Buren, he recently told me, he was saying Miami wants him to come in and be that guy that leads the class and keeps the ball rolling. He was telling me his relationship with Coach Gaddis is really great. His relationship with Coach Ponce is great. And their message has been, come in and be this guy that keeps the ball rolling. And he says it. He told me the momentum that they have is pretty substantial in that 2023 class, and he's looking to keep it going in 2024. I wrote a story about that. That should be coming out, I believe, after signing it. So that's definitely one to watch out for. But he's a really, really good prospect. And this year, I'm speaking for Van Buren, this season at St. Francis was his first year, being a full-time starting quarterback. So he told me his confidence went through the roof. They went 9-1. Their lone loss this year was to IMG. So really big junior year, and he really wants to come down to Miami. I think he said he wants to come down the first week of January to officially visit. And his thing was, I want to come down and see the coach's vibe in person, because he said over the phone the energy's there. He feels the energy that Miami wants him. He just wants to actually say, hey, what are these guys like in person? So those are definitely 2 names that are Miami really, really big on right now in that 2024 class.
Yeah.
Now, real quick with Van Buren, you said he's 6 foot 190.
6 foot, around 190.
Okay, all right. So he's more like is he a mobile quarterback, pocket passer? Are they 2 different? Like what type of? Because this is Gaddis's first full recruiting cycle, right? Like if he has it, I'm gonna have some questions about that in a second. But with Gaddis, right? Like, so what kind of quarterback is Air Nolan the same kind of size? Is he like Mario that he's looking for a specific kind of size and athlete and body type?
So I think Air Nolan is a little bit taller than Van Buren, but they're both, I wouldn't say similar quarterbacks, but they have the same traits. Both guys are really good passers, and both guys can, if something is going wrong, they can make something shake on the ground and get out of trouble. So I feel like that's the type of guy that they're somewhat leaning towards in that next class, a guy that can make something happen with his legs as well as his arms.
Okay, all right. It's good to know how he views the offense. What you got, Joe?
I'm really looking for this Fletcher drop, man. I'm waiting for
Solutions, man. Hey,
this
solutions.
Fletcher
You know what
drop,
I mean?
man. You know what I mean? The crystal balls are coming in. Will Fong just dropped the bomb. You know what I mean? So these joints are coming in, man.
Coming in hot, man. We're 3 days away from National Signing Day, so it's crazy.
We saw recently the Jeremiah Smith commitment to 2024. I don't really pay to Ohio State. You know, I don't really pay attention to it right now. It's 2024. You know, we got a full year. No telling where the receiver coach at Ohio State, Hartline, will be in a year. No telling where he'll be after signing day, you know. But that 5-star incredible South Florida receiver keeps eluding Miami. You know, we can't seem to. The last receiver we had like that was probably Amon Richards. You know what I mean? Why can't we land the South Florida receiver, and in 2024, besides Jeremiah Smith, who is that guy in 2024?
So I made a joke with somebody early this year because Brian Hartline was actually on the sideline for a Chaminade game. And I'm like, man, this dude has a pipeline to South Florida, and I was like, actually, he literally just has a Heartline. Like he has this good heart, like just whatever elite South Florida wide receiver that comes out, Brian Hartline is here on top of them, making sure they end up, you know, up north. But I feel like just his credibility has just been the biggest thing, you know. A lot of things lie, numbers can't lie. When you have two guys drafted in the first round, or you have another guy projected this year, when you have Jameson Williams, that was a product of your school, get drafted in that same first round. It's just, as a kid, I'd be wanting to go up north. You know, they have the little slogan developed here, and I feel like those kids are really bought into it. But I just feel like if Miami can have, you know, one of these 2023 guys, maybe a Ray, maybe a Robbie, really pop off and say, hey, I'm making it happen at home. I'm putting it off from my crib. You guys can be next in line to do that. And I feel like another thing you mentioned, you know, another 2024 guy right across from Jeremiah Smith, JoJo Trader. I feel like he kind of didn't get forgotten, but with Jeremiah Smith, you know, being that spectacular number one, making the big catches, a lot of people kind of not fell back, just, you know, all the attention was on Jeremiah. And I feel like JoJo is, if not as good, maybe better than Jeremiah in different ways. They're both excellent receivers, and DVD has been doing a great job of recruiting that whole Chaminade 2024 class with Davion Gals, with Trader, with Smith, with Jaquan Patterson, a really, really good safety for them. You know, Cedric Bailey, he hasn't picked up a Miami offer yet, but DVD is really, you know, on top of them. And I asked them, you know, what about DVD stands out? They all tell me, you know, he was my coach when I was 10 years old. You know, we don't even talk about football. I'll call DVD, say, hey, let's hop on, play some Madden. Just building that, you know, real genuine connection with those kids. So I feel like that's going to go a long way. And I made a joke. I was like, I'm kind of glad he committed, you know, now. So Miami has all that time to put in that work to flip him at the end of the day.
Yeah. Then you see the Loafers in the crib.
Exactly.
When you see the Loafers come out, if the Loafers come out, then I'll start paying attention. You know what I mean? Like, oh, this is legit. This is a different beast. Man, like all these kids, Jeremiah Smith, JoJo Trey. That was a great question, Joe. Like we do miss that one guy. Since I'm on Richards, you know what I'm saying? Like we haven't had that, like that dude that really shows up on that side, man.
And we got cheated. We got cheated with Amon. You know what I mean? He couldn't finish his career, you know, and he was on his way to greatness. Like we saw it, you know, he was a problem. And you know, we could never get that guy, man. Amari Cooper, you know, just so many, you know, that
so many kids, so many.
Yeah. Yeah, crazy.
Let me ask you something, Izubee, like we talked a little bit before this, right? How crazy, I think we just skipped over this because, you know what I'm saying, we're already looking forward to next year, like, and looking for that next crystal ball, like Joe's doing. You know what I'm saying? Trying to see what's popping. But
every time, son.
Friday, was it? No, it was Thursday, right? Yeah, it was Thursday because I was actually Friday in Gainesville. I stayed at the same hotel that the Samson stayed at for work, bro. Right? I can understand why he left, why he didn't choose that. But, you know what I'm saying? I just want to put that out there. I'm not gonna put the name out of the hotel. Just gonna keep that. how crazy was that day, right? Like, because we talked a little bit, like, oh, you kind of heard some stuff, but like, let's jump back to that. How crazy was that Samson day?
That was I was refreshing. That was like I said, you usually have a hey, this guy might be coming here, but with Samson, it was kind of just like I see a Michigan State staffer say we got something special coming. I'm like, what the heck is going on here? Like an hour before, I'm seeing the Florida guy saying Samson's coming home, this and that, blah blah blah. So that was a nail biter coming down. But I feel like that in-home visit is what gave me that confidence when they went to his house in Massachusetts on Tuesday. I feel like that 100% solidified. I feel like if they didn't get that in, then I'd have been stressing and sweating a little bit more down the road. But I feel like like we said, the Black Loafers made their way up north and stamped it and got them home. So that was an interesting one though. But I'm glad it came out to Miami's favor.
Do you look for clue? Like, do you get clues? Like, I know, during Samson's announcement, people were looking at the hat game. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Every fitted was tilted. The Miami hat was flat. So everybody was like, oh, he gone. You know what I mean? Do you look for, or do you notice certain type of clues when you talk to recruits, or, when they're about to commit that can sway them a certain way?
So kind of going off that, when you talk to a guy, you get a pretty good indication on where his head's kind of at. One example is that. So the 2024 kid I spoke with, his name was DJ Lagway, the guy he quarterback committed to Florida. Yeah. So I interviewed him when he first got the Miami offer, and I was like, can you see yourself playing down here? He's like, yeah, I can see myself playing in Florida, whether it's Miami or Florida. And I was like, I didn't say anything about my Florida.
Right.
I was like, that's a little interesting. So like, kids will drop subtle hints about things here and there. And honestly, like I said, I mentioned, hey, how's that interest from Miami? And depending on some kids like, yeah, it's there. Or if kids like, man, Miami's one of those schools. You just hearing how they speak about the school. It's a good indication if a kid's rocking with Miami, or if a kid's not. Like, I spoke with some kids from California, and I just said, hey, heard from Miami at all, this and that. They're just like, So I'm like, all right, this kid's a Cali kid, he's gonna stay over there. But I bring up Miami to a kid from Miami, he's this and that. So like these kids, if you bring up a school, just how they respond to it, what they say about it is always a good indication. And honestly, just what they really post, on social media, you always have to watch out about that. I know when Miami was losing a lot, one thing Jeremiah Smith would always do is kind of say, hey, oh, come on, Miami, things and that. So he's one of the kids that really, really, I feel like, genuinely loves Miami. But like we talked about, that heartline, that development is something that kind of pulled him away from his local team. But 365 days, the clock's ticking until,
long time, baby.
Exactly.
Yeah, I was telling people that, my bad. I was telling people that about James Williams. Me and my son went to the Florida game, and was it 19? When did we play them in Orlando? 19, right? Stadium, first game of the year. Yeah. Terrible stadium, right? But we were sitting right next to James Williams, So I'm talking to him the whole game, and I can see how invested he was in Miami. Like, he was going crazy. And the game, it was an exciting game for a little while, and he was going crazy. And after we left, I was like, yo, he's coming to Miami. You know what I mean? It ain't, and COVID happened to happen, whatever. But you can tell that he loved Miami. You can just tell, man. So I can see what you're saying.
There's a couple guys, down here too that kind of have that same thing. They love Miami, but sometimes, some guys just want to get out of South Florida. Like,
sure.
When I spoke with Hakeem, loves Miami. He said, even during his commitment, he picked up the Miami hat and was like, I got a lot of respect for Miami. They were my first offer and things like that. But, speaking to his mom, speaking to him, he just wanted to, get out of South Florida and experience something different in life. So that also, comes in the fact that at the end of the day, you can only respect that if your kid, sees a better future for himself elsewhere. Kudos to you. Best of luck with everything like that, But there's a lot of different things kind of going back to that. Why the big receivers, leave South Florida.
Sure.
Yeah, I mean, because it goes back to what me and Joe were just saying, right? Like, we can only pull on one name out of the last, what is that, Joe, 10 years? of
Shit.
a receiver
10,
being
15.
developed. You know what I'm saying? Like a receiver being developed and put into the league. Like, so you see, there hasn't been that proof on the field, and receivers are 3 and done. You see, like the kid from Ohio State is not even playing in the college football playoff, which I don't even knock. He's got the league ahead of him. You know what I'm saying? Even if he does have that express commercial. So, you know what I'm saying? Shout out to him trying to do his thing. So receivers like that are 3 and done. So it makes sense. So till they see it on the field, I would understand why. Because with this offense that we saw struggle, like it's hard to be like, oh yeah, come here, and then like we'll maybe figure it out. Besides Ohio State, it's already proven, and like you said, you got that heart line because you got that heart line from Chaminade to Ohio State to the NFL. Like, why wouldn't you make that jump? So we also forget, man, like Miami's fighting a 20-year uphill battle, right? Like those relationships, like with Luke Campbell telling you that Mario's finally is the one showing up. Like that's a bunch of coaches that didn't show up before. So building that, you don't just get that trust because you wear, you know what I'm saying, the U on your helmet or you on your shirt. Like you gotta show up for these kids, for these young men day in, day out, and show them that you're about that, man. So man, it's just it's so like us as fans always think, oh, it's just gonna happen overnight with Miami. It's gonna work. Like, nah, man, like these kids never seen you win. Like they've never seen you beat, you know what I'm saying? Like they might not remember Ahmad Richards running past an entire team at Florida State and knocking blocks off. They got to YouTube that. So it takes time to build that, man. Man, it's
they
crazy.
got to watch the U part 1 and part 2. You know what I mean? That's
part
all
2
they
was a
had
little
to
worse.
go.
Part 2 was mostly about the corruption and, you know what I'm saying, like the shit we shouldn't have been doing. So just watch part 1 and then like some stuff happened and now we're here. And now we're here. You know what I mean?
I wish I could. I wish I could. I had the capability to start a part 3. I've been thinking about that for the last couple of months. Like I wish I could do that.
Hey,
you know, I was in a position to do that.
We here now. It's nothing we can't do. We got the internet. We could make our own version of it. Everything's
you know, but we got to be there. You know, we got to be in the building. We got to do interviews and, you know, man.
Hey man, it's a process, man.
Yeah.
Go ahead. What you got, Joe? I know you got more recruiting questions, man. You my recruiting guru. You more embedded into this than I am, man.
Nah, man. Is he? You know, he been on, man. I don't want to hold because I want to go position by position. You know what I mean? I don't know. I want to know what's going on in 2024. You know, but yeah, man. Who
are some guys we should that like the regular fan, people listening to the show? Who are some names that we should know and look out for in 24?
Yeah. So I mentioned the whole Chaminade crew. Honestly, I feel like Trader Smith and then the running back Davion Gauss is a guy that I really like that Miami's shown some interest with. He's been a really good guy. Going back with Patterson, what I love about him is this kid is like a bullet on the field. Like he gets from point. He reminds me of Javon Holland from the Dolphins. I really, really like how aggressive and fast he plays. He'll line up in the box. He'll drop back in coverage. He's really flying across the field. And Miami is done a good job with the Columbus guys too. So T.J. Capers, Dalen Russell, Dylan Stevenson. They have a really good wide receiver, Jose Leon, that's kind of underrated. But when I tell you, every game I've went to Columbus, this kid has scored on the same route and cooked the. You know what's coming. Like this is something you game plan for the whole week, and this kid still runs the route crispy, breaks it off. He hasn't picked up a Miami offer yet, but that's another 2025 guy that I really like. But Miami's done a really good job. I love what I've seen from T.J. Capers in that 2024 class. A lot of talent. We got St. Thomas Aquinas has a good wide receiver. Chance Robinson, that's a 2024 guy that had a good season this year, just won a state championship that Miami, is really high on it, and a couple of Miami Central guys as well. So I feel like Cristobal is doing a great job of tapping in, like I said, planting those seeds for the next group of up-and-coming South Florida guys.
All right. What you got, Joe?
I'm trying to think of – I got one more. I'm sorry, man. I'm trying to think of the quarterback's name. He's a 2024 or 25. He committed to LSU, but he loves Miami. Did we not offer him?
Colin Hurley.
That's my guy, man. Did we not offer or what?
I feel like because with the recruiting with 2025 guys, because he just reclassified to 24. So I feel like with that the contact period, you really can't contact 2025 guys, and I feel like LSU was on him a lot, and then he reclassifies, and then they jump on him quick, and then just boom. But I think he had something. I'm not sure if he was a guy with South Florida roots from Jacksonville, but yeah, that's one guy.
Are we still on? Are we still?
I haven't really heard much
Okay.
swirl about him. I feel like the two guys that Miami really been locked in on is with Van Buren and Nolan. But you never know. Like I said, behind the scenes, these guys moving pieces that even the reporters that think they have all the scoops don't know about. So definitely maybe a name to look out for as well.
Yeah.
All right.
I got it right
So you
there.
got anything else?
No,
Yeah,
man.
no,
I'm good,
not-
man. I appreciate everything, man. I appreciate it.
Hey, man, Izubee, man, thank you so much for joining us, man. Listen, whenever you want to jump on and chop it up, man, and take over like Stephen A., we're here, bro. We're here. This is, I'm saying, you fam now. I'm saying this is something we're building here. We try and keep it honest, keep it a buck, and we don't want to go the perspective of, I'm saying, like, people who have been doing this a long time. You know what I mean? Like we try to do fresh eyes, so that's why, I'm saying, I was like, yo, I gotta hit up Izubee, man. He's got fresher eyes than we do. You know what I'm saying? I got contacts on. My eyes ain't that fresh. You know what I'm saying? Like, so
Yeah.
I appreciate all the work you do, man, the hard work you do. By the way, man, having to drive to Lakeland and not being able to talk to Cormani is crazy.
Crazy.
That was it.
Did you get to catch up with him though at another time, like on the phone, or he just wasn't doing any interviews?
So what happened with that was I was trying to track down, like I said, a lot of phone calls you got to do to get these kids. I called his school, his coach, everything, and then finally we got an old number for one of his coaches, and Matt Shadow. Thank God Matt's been in this game for a long time. He got in contact with the coach, and he said, "Hey, can one of our guys come up and talk to you about something, or talk to Cormani about his recruitment, things like that." So he's like, "Yeah, for sure." So I get to Lakeland. They say, "Hey, don't bother anybody at practice. Stay on the sideline." I do that. Wait till practice is over. I talk to Coach Castle, the coach at Lakeland. He's like, "Yeah, go ahead, talk to him." I walk over. I was like, "Hey, Cormani, whatever. Do you mind doing an interview with me?" He's like, "Nah, I don't do interviews." I was like, "Oh man." I was like, I just drove down, up from Miami. It's been a long drive. But yeah, my mom said I can't do interviews. I'm sorry. And I was like, "Hey, if his mom says that, gotta respect it." I mean, number two.
This is after the commitment. After. What?
Yeah. So I mean, I don't know what's there, but like I said, even, I spoke with Cormani at the Under Armour Future 50 camp in the summer. That was one of the first events I worked. He was real nice. They was bombarding him in the room. He came outside. I got a one-on-one with him. So I'm thinking, hey, maybe he'll remember my face because these kids see a million people asking. So I was like, maybe he'll remember my face. I'll get up there. We'll have a quick, chop it up. Because he even told me that first time, he's like, I don't really like doing interviews. I get, I'm not the best on camera. So I was like, all right, I'll get out. My thing is make them comfortable. I say, hey, act like we're chopping it up like two homeboys. So I'm thinking, hey, we're going to get up there. We're going to start chopping it up. And then, sorry, I can't do it. I was like,
damn.
Yeah.
You're one of the few people that can actually say that too, though. Like, because everybody else in their 50s and 60s can't. Ain't nobody out there saying homeboys. Or chop it up. Or chop it up, right? Like, they ain't saying none of that. So let me ask you, did you one last question.
Go ahead.
I got more questions. No, so what you got to see Cormani practice, right? What about him stands out? Because to me and Joe, he's like top two number one. Number one
to me.
Yeah, in this recruiting class, right? Like watching him, what makes him different than other defensive backs that you've seen?
He's got that swagger, man. Like even in practice, he was just chirping and backing it up too. And it's not like you're garbage type of chirp. He's like, listen, man, nobody can touch me right now. I'm doing this and that, and he's backing it up. And he's a thinner guy, but he is like his calves are just like, I'm like, this kid's got some. He's got some built to him a little bit for being a taller guy. And he's real lengthy too. He's a smooth runner. His hips are fluid. He's turning this and that, cutting on a dime. And I feel like he's a technician. Like he has athletic ability, but his craft is, he's really locked in from that practice I seen. I was like, okay, I understand why this kid is a number one cornerback, number two player in the country. I love what I've seen from him. And like I said, that swagger he has. I mean, we seen the video when he was pointing at the kids at Venice. It's like, you can't teach that. You can't teach that. That's a mindset that you're born with, that God gave you to be special. I feel like he's a special talent that Miami's getting.
All right. That's what's up, man. You got anything else, Joe? I'm good.
Nah, man. Let everybody know where they can find you at, man. Your Twitter, all that, you know.
So my Twitter handle is just my name, Izubee Charles. I'm posting with signing day coming up. I'm posting a lot more content, a lot more one-on-one interviews. If one thing I do want to say too, for anybody watching this, if you ever want to ask a recruit a question or anything like that, just feel free to DM me. And if I could sneak in that question next time I talk to a recruit, I'll more than welcome. I love what I do, but I do it, for everybody else to get a deep, insight on what these kids are thinking, kind of pick their brain, see where they're at. So a lot more content coming up for signing day. I'll be at the Under Armour All-American game with all the Miami commits, so expect a lot of stuff coming for those 2 days up in Orlando, and just a lot of great work in general. And I hope you guys, enjoy it and tune in.
When is the Under Armour game? Because I live near Orlando, so I might be out there.
I want to go there.
It's the 28th, the 28th or the 27th. I'll shoot over this.
January, yeah.
This January?
Man.
Yeah, oh no, December this month.
Okay.
So in the next week or so, yeah. We can.
Never mind. I ain't going. I thought it was in January, man. Damn it.
No, I'm going. I might see you out there, Izubee. I might be out there, man. I live an hour away, so we good.
Okay.
All right, man. Last question of the show, man. I see on your 100 yards, you always ask, you know what I'm saying, the players a specific question. So what right now is on your playlist, Izubee? Before we get up out of here, man, what you vibing to?
I'm bumping that new Drake. I'm the biggest Drake guy. I love Drake. I love some Kodak, some South Florida swag. Another guy from South Florida, his name Lo Shimmy. He's another guy. I love some Drake, Kodak, Lo Shimmy, all that stuff, man.
All right, man. That's what's up, man. We out, guys. Thank you so much for watching. Peace.